the audience has been trained and the audience has expectations that they will not be subjected to anyone who offends their lib sensibilities.
Jimmy Kimmel came back last night. I couldn't even see it because it's not airing in my market of Nashville because Nexstar has preempted it as about 25% of the nation is not getting the Jimmy Kimmel show right now, either on Sinclair or on the Nexstar affiliates. But I thought that he would apologize directly and without equivocation. He did not. I thought that some of the things that he said were well said. And I will play this because he thanked me for standing up for free speech, among others. This is the part of his monologue where he started cut 7.
Maybe most of all, I want to thank the people who don't support my show and what I believe, but support my right to share those beliefs anyway. People who I never would have imagined, like Ben Shapiro, Clay Travis, Candace Owens, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, even my old pal Ted Cruz, who, believe it or not, said something very beautiful on my behalf.
I hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired.
Oh, wait, no, not that. The other part.
But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying,
what you
we
can
don't
and can't
like
say,
what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like. That will end up bad for conservatives.
I don't think I've ever said this before, but Ted Cruz is right.
Okay. So there are other parts. You may play a couple of more cuts here. Here's what I would say in response to that. And Buck's going to get fired up here.
The floor is yours, buddy. Go for it. Yeah.
But here's what I would say. I hope and I think that Jimmy should address and directly apologize. I've said that before for the phrasing and what he said on last week's show. But going forward, as opposed to looking backwards, going forward, what I think should happen is I think that this whole world of left-wing comedians, and comedians in quotation marks, because really the comedy show, when it's only directed in one direction, is not actually comedy, it's propaganda. I think that if we're going to have late-night comedy shows, they should have guests that reflect the entire spectrum of American life. And this is one of the things that I've been hammering for a long time.
You understand why this is not possible, right?
Well, I think it's because they have decided in the wake of Stephen Colbert getting ratings that is what people want in late night television. You have the opinion that is different.
I'm of the opinion, Clay, that the audience has been trained and the audience has expectations that they will not be subjected to anyone who offends their lib sensibilities. And they are little snowflakes and they will scream and melt if that. So this is what you're saying is, again, I agree with you. What you're saying is rational, but there's just no way that's going to happen because how many people watch Kimmel show right now?
Roughly. 1 million.
Like 1 million? That's what I thought. It's like 1 million people. 980,000 of that million would not be okay with anybody. Stephen Miller is a brilliant guy and actually really funny. If Stephen Miller was on the Jimmy Kimmel show one time, there would be a complete freak out from his existing audience, right? I mean, that they can't. Meanwhile, we're just so used to this that we're like, whatever, just put somebody on. If they're funny, I'll watch. If they're not, I won't. We just have a totally different mentality about this. But Clay, they still cannot. It's like even Bill Maher tries to tell his audience, guys, it's a better show if I have right wingers on to give the other perspective. And a lot of his people complain. Now, his audience is a little different. They're not conditioned the same way. They're used to seeing Hitchens and Coulter and these people over the years showing up on that show. But he still gets a lot of complaints. He tells me that. Or people who are like, I never want to see a MAGA person on your show, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and I'm unique maybe in this sense because every time somebody complains about anything that I do, I want to do it more. So I'm a bit antagonistic in that way. If you complain to me because you don't like something, That's not a very effective strategy because it makes me want to do it more. And maybe that's a little bit rare in our world. But you mentioned Bill Maher. I think that's a great example. He has probably the most influential talk show on television in America. I think that's fair. Now, I'm not counting actual political shows. I think Bill Maher has the most influential comedy talk show. Maybe I should have specified in America. I see the clips from his show far more because I think people like the conflict of ideas. I will just tell you, South Park seems to be having a moment. I see South Park clips everywhere, and it seems to me that South Park tries to do a decent job of making fun of everyone. And so I think there actually is a market if you try to treat everyone the same. Now, in the short term, I think you're right. I think there would be a revolt in the short term. I think if you put on Nate Bargatze, and I'll just use him as an example because he is, I think, probably the foremost comedian in America right now in terms of his ability to draw an audience. I think people would watch who are Democrats and Republicans. I think people go buy tickets for his show who are Democrats and Republicans. I think he's an apolitical performer. I think if you started a new show and you made fun of everybody evenly, I think there actually is more demand for that than maybe people think. I don't know if Fox has ever talked about this. Fox back in the day tried to get in the late night game. I mean, the Fox Network, not Fox News. But it never really took off. I don't know why Fox wouldn't try to do this. Now, maybe they don't want to compete with Gutfeld. I haven't had any conversations with the executives at Fox about this, so I'm just kind of walking through it in my own mind. But it seems to me there's actually a desperate demand for someone who is even-handed and will dispense ridicule as Johnny Carson did, as Jay Leno did, as David Letterman did back before he lost his mind, in an even-handed fashion. I think these people mostly just follow whatever direction the currents go. And Stephen Colbert had tremendous success being a left-wing ideologue politician who was doing a late-night television show. Everybody else was getting their ass kicked by Colbert, and so they said, we have to in some way copy what he does. And I think it hurt Fallon the most, because I think Jimmy Fallon, if he had like a spine, is actually the most apolitical of the late-night host. And when he leaned over and ruffled Trump's hair, remember when that happened? I think that he was utterly crushed by the result. I got another idea for you, Buck. I think you have to move these shows out of New York and L.A. I think you have to move late-night comedy out of New York and L.A. I think if you did late-night comedy in Nashville, I think you would get a totally different lifestyle. I think you would get a totally different comedian. I think you'd still get great guests, but I think it would be more middle of the road. I think it's not only the host, it's their writing staff, and it's the world they're surrounded by. You know this because you lived in New York City. When you lived in New York City, you were behind enemy lines. I think it's harder to do a show that appeals to the nation from New York and LA than it is from Nashville or Atlanta or other parts of the middle part of the Cincinnati or Columbus or Chicago for that matter.
You know, if you're running a business, connecting with your team is key, especially if they're all spread out. Sure, you have the phone and email and all that, but what about instantaneous communication with just the push of a button? Couldn't be any more straightforward. Well, you can have that with Rapid Radios, these modern-day walkie-talkies. Let you talk to people across the country as easily as the guy in the warehouse across the street. Rapid Radios make their walkie-talkies with technology that connect to a nationwide LTE network, and Rapid Radios don't require any setup. Just pull them out of the box, press a button, and talk. They're compact in size, carry a 5-day battery charge, and provide an excellent alternative to cell phone communication. Rapid Radio is 100% private, no monthly fees or subscriptions. Visit rapidradios.com, save up to 60%, get free UPS shipping from Michigan, and use code RADIO for an extra 5% off. That's code RADIO. Order today at rapidradios.com.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And be sure to hit that like button.